The implementation of the Buck Act. Let's talk about it. All right, the Buck Act. I'm going to read something for you guys. In order for the federal government to tax a citizen of one of the several states, they had to create some sort of contractual nexus. This contractual nexus is the Social Security number. In 1935, the federal government instituted Social Security. The Social Security Board then created 10 security districts. The combination of these districts resulted in a federal area which covered all the several states like a clear plastic overlay. In 1939, the federal government instituted the Public Salary Tax Act of 1939. This act is a municipal law of the District of Columbia for taxing all federal and state government employees and those who live and work in any federal area. Now, the government knows it cannot tax those state citizens who live and work outside the territorial jurisdiction of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, or Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2 in the U.S. Constitution. So in 1940, Congress passed the Buck Act for USCS Sections 105 through 113. In Section 110E, this act authorized any department of the federal government to create a federal area for imposition of the Public Salary Tax Act of 1939. This tax is imposed at 4 USC Section 111. The rest of the taxing law is found in the Internal Revenue Code. The Social Security Board had already created a federal area overlay. 4 USC Section 111. The term state includes any territory or possession of the United States. Note, the use of the capital S in state is reference to the designating territorial states and possessions held by the corporate United States, which is located in the District of Columbia. For USC Section 110E, the term federal area means any lands or premises held and acquired by or for the use of any United States or department, establishment, or agency of the United States, and any federal area or any part thereof which is located within the exterior boundaries of any state shall be deemed to be federal area located within such state. There is no reasonable doubt that the federal state is imposing an excise tax under the provisions of 4 USCS Section 105, which states in pertinent part, Section 105, state and so forth, taxations affecting federal areas, sales or use tax. No person, note the term person references a fictional entity, shall be relieved from liability for payment of, collection of, or accounting of any sales or use tax levied by any state or by any duty constituted taxing authority therein having jurisdiction to levy such tax on the ground that the sale or use with respect to such tax is levied occurred whole and in part within a federal area, and such state or taxing authority shall have full jurisdiction and power to levy and collect any tax on federal areas the same extent with the same effect as though such area was not a federal area. In perspective of what the tax is called, if it is purposed in order to produce revenue, it is an income tax or a receipts tax under the Buck Act. Now, thus the obvious question arises, what is a federal area? A federal area is any area designated by the agency, department, or establishment of the federal government. This includes the Social Security areas designated by the Social Security Administration and public housing area that has federal funding, a home that has a federal bank loan, a road that has federal funding, and almost everything that the federal government touches through any type of aid. See Springfield versus Kenny, 104 Northeast. This federal area attaches to anyone who has a Social Security number or any personal contact with the federal or state governments through this mechanism. The federal governments usurp the sovereignty of the people as well as the sovereignty of the several states by creating federal areas within the boundaries of the state under the authority of Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. The federal Constitution, which states Congress shall have the power to dispose of and make any needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or any property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or any particular state. Therefore, all U.S. citizens, i.e. franchise citizens of the District of Columbia, residing in any one of the states of the Union are classified as property, as franchise of the federal government, and as an individual entity. See Wheeling Steel Corp. versus Fox, 298 U.S. 193. The federal government has created a federal area within the boundaries of all these several states. This area is similar to any territory that the federal government acquires through purchases, conquest, treaty, thereby imposing federal territory law upon all the people. The federal territory law is evidenced by the executive branch's yellow fringed U.S. flag flying in schools, offices, and courtrooms designated a mercantile jurisdiction. Remember, all acts of Congress are territorial in nature and only apply within the territorial jurisdictions of Congress. See American Banana Company versus United Fruit Company. There has been created a fictional federal state within a state. See Howard versus Sinking, Fund of Louisianaville. compare also, which also identifies a fictional state within a state. This fictional state is identified by the use of the two-letter abbreviations like CA, AZ, VA, TX, as distinguished from the authorized abbreviations like Caliph, Ares, Tex, etc. This fictional state also uses the zip codes, which are within the municipal jurisdictions and legislative acts of Congress. This entire scheme was accomplished by the passage of the Buck Act, 4 USC sections 105 through 113, to implement the application of the Public Salary Tax Act of 1939 to workers within the private sector. This subjects all private sector workers who have a Social Security number to all the state and federal laws within the state, a fictional federal area overlay of the land of California and all other states in the Union. In California, this is established by California Form 590 Revenue and Taxation. So to read the rest of this, check out my website.